The document sits in a manila folder marked Classified Eyes only for 52 years. The stamp across the top reads Declassify, 2024 in faded red ink. Inside, 23 pages of testimony from a CIA field operative, codenamed LOTUS, describing 3 months of training with Bruce Lee in 1972. Training that was never supposed to happen. Training that doesn't appear in any official biography. Training that, according to the testimony, saved Lotus's life 7 times in the field and fundamentally changed how the CIA approached hand-to-hand combat training. But the document doesn't just describe techniques. It describes why the CIA came to Bruce Lee, what they were preparing for, and what Bruce discovered about himself and about violence during those 3 months that would haunt him for the last year of his life. The declassification happened on January 15, 2024. No press conference, no announcement, just a routine document dump as part of a 50-year review cycle. Most of the files released that day were bureaucratic budget reports, personnel transfers, administrative memos, but buried in the batch, file reference CIAO, TS 1972 to 1847, was LOTUS's testimony. Let me tell you what it says, and more importantly, what it means. It starts in March 1972. The CIA's Office of Technical Services, the division responsible for developing spy gadgets, disguises, and specialized training, has a problem. They're losing field operatives in close-quarters situations, not in fights, not in planned operations, in unexpected encounters, a checkpoint that turns hostile, a safe house that isn't safe, a contact who's actually a double agent. Situations where firearms are either unavailable or unusable, where the operative needs to neutralize a threat instantly, silently, and then disappear. The CIA's standard hand-to-hand combat training isn't working. It's based on military combatives, effective for soldiers in combat zones, but too aggressive, too visible, too memorizable for intelligence work. When an operative uses these techniques, and someone survives or witnesses it, the techniques identify the operative as American military trained. Burned cover, blown operation, dead operative. OTS needs something different, something that doesn't look American, something that works in confined spaces, car interiors, elevators, narrow corridors, something that can be used while wearing civilian clothes, not tactical gear, something that incapacitates instantly without requiring sustained grappling or ground fighting that attracts attention. Someone in OTS, the testimony, doesn't name who, suggests Bruce Lee. The idea is immediately controversial. Bruce Lee is a public figure. He's filming movies. He's developing a philosophy. He's not a government contractor. How do you approach him? How do you ensure operational security? How do you trust someone outside the intelligence community with classified information about CIA field operations? But the person pushing for Bruce makes one compelling argument. Bruce Lee already knows how to kill people efficiently. He spent his entire life studying the most effective ways to damage the human body. And unlike military instructors who teach soldiers to fight other soldiers, Bruce teaches civilian self-defense, how to survive when you're outnumbered, outgunned, in regular clothes, in public spaces. That's exactly what field operatives need. OTS sends someone to make contact, not an official approach that would create a paper trail, a mutual friend, someone in the Hong Kong film industry with intelligence connections. The message is simple. Someone wants to learn from you. Private training. 3 months, significant compensation, complete discretion required. Bruce's first reaction, according to LOTUS's testimony, is suspicion. He's been approached before by people wanting private training, businessmen, celebrities, criminals. He turns down most of them. They want Bruce Lee the movie star, not Bruce Lee the teacher. They want to learn the flashy kicks, not the principles. They want to be able to say, I trained with Bruce Lee, not to actually understand martial arts. But this approach is different. The intermediary makes it clear. This is serious. The student is a professional who faces real violence. The training needs to be practical, efficient, teachable to others. No performance, no philosophy, just what works. Bruce agrees to one meeting, just to evaluate the student. If he's not serious, Bruce will decline. The meeting happens at a private gym in Kowloon. 9 p.m. No one else present. The student who arrives is 34 years old, fit but not muscular, wearing casual clothes, speaking English with a neutral American accent that's been trained out of any regional markers. Professional observer, alert without being obvious about it, dangerous without broadcasting danger. Bruce asks one question: why do you need this? Lotus's answer, according to the testimony: because I work in places where I can't rely on backup, can't carry weapons openly, and can't afford to be identified by my fighting style. I need to be able to stop a threat in seconds and walk away like nothing happened. I need to be invisible, not impressive. Bruce studies Lotus for a full minute without speaking, then says, "Okay, but we do this my way. You learn principles, not techniques. You understand why, not just how. And you never tell anyone where you learned this, not your agency, not your colleagues, no one. This stays between us." Lotus agrees, doesn't mention CIA, doesn't clarify agency, just agrees to the terms. They train 3 times per week for 3 months, April through June 1972, always at night. Always in private locations, empty warehouses, closed gyms, rooftops. Bruce brings no students, takes no notes, no photographs, no recordings. Everything is verbal instruction and physical demonstration. The testimony describes the training in detail. It's not what Lotus expected. Most martial arts training starts with techniques. Punch this way, kick that way, block like this. Bruce doesn't teach techniques first. He teaches awareness, how to read body language, how to identify threat intention before threat action, how to position yourself in a room so you're never trapped, how to create exits, how to make yourself uninteresting to potential threats. Fighting is failure. Bruce tells Lotus in the first session, if you're fighting, you already failed to avoid the situation. Everything I teach you is for when avoidance fails. But avoidance should never fail. Lotus writes in the testimony, he spent 2 weeks teaching me how not to fight, how to read environments, how to position myself, how to move through crowds without attracting attention while maintaining awareness of everyone around me, how to identify threats 3 steps before they materialize. He said, the best CIA operative should be someone nobody remembers seeing. That's when I knew he understood what I was, even though I never confirmed it. After 2 weeks of awareness training, Bruce starts teaching what he calls stoppers, not fighting techniques. Stoppers, single actions that end a threat immediately, designed for surprise, designed for confined spaces, designed to look accidental if witnessed. High strikes that look like you raised your hand to push someone away. Throat strikes that look like you blocked a punch and accidentally caught their neck. Knee destructions that looked like you just stepped forward and they fell awkwardly. Techniques that disable instantly but don't look like martial arts to witnesses. He made me practice each stopper thousands of times. Lotus testifies. Not in combinations, not in sequences, just singular actions. His philosophy was that in real situations, you don't have time for combinations. You have time for one action. That action needs to end the threat completely. No second chances. Bruce also teaches what he calls invisibility principles, how to execute these techniques while carrying a briefcase, while wearing a suit and tie, while holding a drink, how to maintain casual body language right up until the moment of action so that security cameras don't show you shifting into a fighting stance, how to walk away immediately after without checking if the threat is neutralized, because checking reveals training. The testimony describes one exercise that Bruce repeats endlessly. He would have me sit in a chair, reading a newspaper, while he approached from different angles. At random moments, he would attack. My job was to respond with one stopper without dropping the newspaper or showing any warning signs before the action. He said this simulates being in a cafe when a threat appears. You can't afford to look ready. You look like a civilian until the exact millisecond you need to act. 8 weeks into training, Bruce takes Lotus to Hong Kong streets at night, not to practice, to observe. They walk through different neighborhoods, wealthy areas, poor areas, tourist districts, industrial zones. Bruce points out real situations. See that man? He's deciding whether to rob someone. Watch his eyes, watch his feet. He's chosen his target, that couple. Now watch 3-2. See, he changed his mind. His body committed, but his mind hesitated. That hesitation is what you look for. That's when people are most vulnerable, when their mind and body aren't aligned. They watch bar fights, street arguments, police confrontations. Bruce provides real-time commentary. See how that officer is standing. He's broadcast that he's ready to fight. Everyone within 30 feet knows he's dangerous. That's good for a cop, bad for you. You need to broadcast nothing until you act. Lotus writes, those street observation sessions taught me more about reading violence than any classroom training. Bruce didn't teach me to look for danger. He taught me to see the decision to commit to danger. That's earlier. That's preventable. That's survivable. Month 3. Bruce introduces what he calls stress inoculation. He brings in training partner students from his regular classes who don't know who LOTUS is. He creates scenarios, confined spaces, multiple attackers, weapons, training versions, surprise attacks from behind, poor lighting, loud noise, every variable that makes real situations chaotic. Fight like your life depends on it. Bruce tells the training partners, don't hold back. I want chaos. LOTUS has to apply the stoppers in these scenarios. Single techniques, immediate effect, then disengage and disappear into the environment. Bruce times everything. How fast can LOTUS recognize the threat? How fast can LOTUS act? How fast can LOTUS disappear? He's training for speed, but not fighting speed. Operational speed. Recognition to action to disappeared. The testimony describes one scenario in particular. Bruce sets up a mock apartment, tells LOTUS, you're here to meet a contact. The contact is actually hostile. You have briefcase in one hand, coffee in the other. Contact attacks when you're mid-sentence. Go first attempt. LOTUS drops both items, assumes fighting stance, successfully neutralizes the threat. Bruce stops the scenario. You've just revealed your train. Any witness or camera sees that response. You're identified as intelligence or military. Again, second attempt. LOTUS maintains casual posture longer, but still shifts stance before acting. Bruce stops it, still showing training. Again, they run this scenario 17 times. Finally, LOTUS maintains complete civilian body language, executes a throat strike that looks like a defensive hand raise, steps back as the training partner collapses, sets down the coffee, picks up the briefcase, walks out. Total time from threat to exit, 4 seconds. Bruce nods. That's invisible. That's CIA proof. 3 months end in late June 1972. Final session. Bruce and LOTUS meet one last time at the original Kowloon gym. Bruce gives LOTUS a handwritten list, no letterhead, no signature, just techniques and principles. Teach these to whoever needs them. Modify them for different situations. But remember the core principle. If witnesses can tell you're trained, you failed. Effectiveness isn't enough. Invisibility matters. LOTUS asks Bruce why he agreed to this training. Why help intelligence operatives kill more efficiently? Bruce's answer, quoted in the testimony, because I'd rather the people who have to use violence be taught by someone who understands restraint. If I don't teach you, someone else will. Someone who teaches violence as power instead of violence as last resort. You said you work in places where you face real danger. I believe you. I'd rather you survive those encounters efficiently than survive them brutally. Efficiency has mercy built in. You stop the threat and leave. Brutality escalates. Brutality creates more violence. If I can teach efficient violence, maybe that reduces total violence in the world. LOTUS writes, he seemed conflicted about what he'd taught me. Not regretful, conflicted, like he understood the necessity, but wasn't comfortable with his role in it. The testimony then describes field applications. LOTUS deployed to Southeast Asia, July 1972. Between July 1972 and June 1973, 1 month before Bruce's death, LOTUS uses Bruce's training 7 times in operational situations, each incident described in clinical detail. Incident 1. Bangkok's safe house compromise. 2 hostile operatives, confined hallway. LOTUS uses knee destruction on first threat, throat strike on second. Total time, 3 seconds. Both threats incapacitated. LOTUS exits unseen. Incident 2. Saigon contact meeting turns hostile. Contact pulls knife in crowded restaurant. LOTUS executes eye strike disguised as defensive hand raise. Contact drops knife. LOTUS departs. Witnesses think contact had seizure. No CIA connection suspected. 5 more incidents described, similarly each one validating Bruce's teaching that efficiency and invisibility can coexist. LOTUS concludes the testimony. Bruce Lee saved my life 7 times without ever being in the room. More importantly, he taught me that violence can be a tool without becoming an identity. I never became someone who fights. I remained someone who avoids fighting, and, when avoidance fails, stops threats efficiently. That distinction kept me human during operations that dehumanize most operatives. The document includes one final note. LOTUS attended Bruce Lee's funeral in July 1973. Stood at the back, didn't approach the family, didn't identify themselves, just paid respects to someone who, in LOTUS's words, Taught me how to survive without becoming a killer. Technique without philosophy is just brutality. He gave me both. The CIA kept this testimony classified for 52 years. Why declassify now? The researcher who found the document, Dr. Sarah Chen at Georgetown University, offers this analysis. By 2024, everyone named in the document is either dead or retired. The operational techniques described are outdated. Modern surveillance makes these approaches less viable. There's no national security risk in releasing this, but there is historical value in understanding that Bruce Lee's influence extended beyond cinema and martial arts into intelligence operations. The document raises questions that may never be answered. Did Bruce train other intelligence operatives? LOTUS's testimony suggests Bruce said, "Teach these to whoever needs them." Did LOTUS teach other CIA operatives? Did this become standard CIA curriculum? Did Bruce know his student was CIA? The testimony suggests he suspected but never confirmed. Did he deliberately maintain plausible deniability? How did this training affect Bruce in his final year? His interviews in 1972 to 1973 show him increasingly philosophical about violence, increasingly focused on martial arts as art rather than combat. Was training someone to kill efficiently even with restraint troubling to him? Linda Lee Cadwell, Bruce's widow, was asked about the document in March 2024. Her response: Bruce believed knowledge should serve life, not death. If he trained someone from an intelligence agency, I believe he would have done so with the intention of reducing total violence, not increasing it. That would be consistent with his philosophy, but he never mentioned anything like this to me. I suspect he kept many things private to protect those he taught. Dan Inosanto, Bruce's senior student and close friend, offered this perspective. Bruce struggled with the idea that his teachings could be used to harm people. He wanted martial arts to be about self-improvement and self-defense, not aggression. But he was also pragmatic. He understood that some people face real danger and need real skills. If this testimony is accurate, it sounds like Bruce tried to teach violence as a last resort, not a first option. That would be exactly his approach. The document also impacts our understanding of Bruce Lee's final film, Enter the Dragon. Filmed in late 1972 and early 1973, immediately after training LOTUS, some fight choreography in that film shows the principles described in the testimony: single action stoppers, efficiency over flashiness, techniques that work in confined spaces. Film historian Mark Johnson notes, watch the opening sequence where Bruce fights the opponent in the underground cave. Every technique is a stopper, single action, immediate effect, move on, no extended combinations, no unnecessary movement. That's not typical martial arts cinema of the era. Other films had elaborate fights. Bruce's fights in Enter the Dragon are efficient, almost clinical. This testimony suggests he was applying real operational thinking to his choreography. The existence of this testimony also explains some mysterious gaps in Bruce Lee's 1972 schedule. His appointment books show several private sessions with no student names attached. His usual practice was to note student names. These unnamed sessions align with the April-June 1972 timeline LOTUS describes. But the most significant impact of this declassification isn't historically light, philosophical. It forces us to reconsider Bruce Lee's relationship with violence. Popular culture remembers Bruce Lee as a fighter. Movie posters show him in aggressive stances. Documentaries focus on his speed and power. But this testimony reveals someone more complex, someone who taught lethal techniques while simultaneously teaching restraint, someone who understood violence intimately but used that understanding to minimize violence. LOTUS writes, he told me, every technique I teach you is a reason not to use it. The more you understand how to destroy the human body, the more you should appreciate human fragility. Power without restraint is just brutality. I'm teaching you power so you can exercise restraint. That philosophy, power enabling restraint rather than encouraging. Violence represents Bruce Lee's actual legacy more accurately than any movie fight scene. The document remains controversial. Some martial arts historians question its authenticity. No photographs exist of Bruce with LOTUS. No other witnesses have come forward. The CIA has confirmed the document's authenticity as a genuine CIA file but won't confirm operational details. Skeptics point out that any skilled writer could create a plausible training testimony. The specific techniques described align with Bruce's known philosophy, which is exactly what you'd expect from either a real testimony or a well-researched fake. Believers countered that the document includes details that wouldn't be known to outsiders, specific training locations in Hong Kong, technical terminology, Bruce's teaching methods that only students would know. The truth may never be fully verified, but the document's value isn't dependent on its absolute authenticity. It represents something true about Bruce Lee regardless. He understood that martial arts mastery isn't about winning fights, it's about avoiding them, and when avoidance fails, ending threats with minimum necessary force. Whether LOTUS was real or not, the philosophy described in that testimony was absolutely real. Bruce Lee did believe that efficiency reduces violence. He did teach that awareness prevents more fights than technique wins. He did insist that martial arts should make you less violent, not more violent, because understanding violence reveals its costs. The declassified document, real or symbolic, reminds us that Bruce Lee's actual revolution wasn't in martial arts techniques, it was in martial arts philosophy. He taught that the ultimate fighter is someone who never needs to fight, that real mastery is invisible, that power's greatest expression is restraint. And somewhere, maybe, there's a retired CIA operative who learned these lessons, not from books or movies, but from 3 months of training with Bruce Lee in 1972, and who survived 7 deadly encounters by remembering one principle: efficiency has mercy built in. The document exists, declassified January 15, 2024, 23 pages. Filed as CIA OTS 1972 to 1847. Whether every detail is factual or some details are embellished, or the entire thing is carefully constructed mythology, it tells a truth about Bruce Lee that matters. He taught people how to fight so they wouldn't have to. That's the real secret. That's what the CIA learned. And that's what the rest of us should remember.